a video of it before, but I thought I'm going to behave myself a little bit. But
Parents, I just saw your Moshe dive.
Where's Parents?
He was just there.
He's in his kitchen. In the kitchen.
I didn't see him. I think he's out. Did he record? Has he started recording?
Yeah, it started recording.
Yeah, I started recording. I'll be up in a minute. I'm trying to cook for Yom Tov.
Oh, Mama Shazah, husband.
No. This has nothing to do with being romantic. This is the food I like.
Okay.
Smoked turkey.
Now you're talking. Okay, so Daf Lamed Dal was yesterday. So we had kashas on Rav Yirmiyah that we looked at things virtually, like as if you can bend over the basket. That was pretty much Amud Aleph. Amud Beis, that how deep does the bar go down? Right? Meaning it goes down up to 100. So the Ma'aser the Maskana of the Gemara is that it's in a Carmelis, because if it was in Rosh Hashanah, there's no Chiddush. Rosh Hashanah, then also how would we be able to take it from the Rosh Hashanah into the bar? Then we had a Mishna that the Eruv can be put on top of a reed as long as it's detached from the ground. And the Gemara went through different types of reeds. And then the Machlokes, we started the Mishna and a little bit of the Gemara. If the Machlokes, if you put the Eruv into a box and then you lost the key. Right? So that's a Machlokes in the Mishnah, whether that's a good Eruv or not. So the first teretz of the Gemara is that it's talking about a room that had loose bricks. Right? Or the second teretz is that it's talking about Yom Tov, which we'll have to pick it up from there. So then the Gemara tonight's stuff basically continues trying to figure out the pshat with this Mishnah, like what's the story with this box? Is it for Yom Tov? Is it for Shabbos? And where were the keys? And that's going to be Amud Aleph. And then Amud Beis, we're going to talk about Chazak. There's a Mishnah that talks about safek Eruv, whether it was a safek or the Eruv was there before Shabbos or not. And because it's a safek, so it's going to be a machlokes. How do we look at a safek? Right? Very fascinating Gemaras. I don't know, very fascinating Gemaras, but fascinating enough for sure. That over when we say chazakas and safekas, which happens to come up a lot. Fine. Okay, so let's pick it up from... where should we start? Okay, let's for simplicity's sake, let's just start from the Gemara. Again, the Gemara is going on the Mishnah that we said if you put the Eruv in a box, so then it's you have to bust it. You lost the key. So is it a good Eruv or not? So Rabbi Elazar says, the Tanna Kama says it's still a good Eruv, and Rabbi Eliezer says it's not a good Eruv. Yeah. So he's in one place and his Eruv is another place. How can you say the Eruv is kosher if he can't even access the Eruv because he doesn't have the keys? So Rav Shmuel, we're talking about a migdal, a tower, but it means a box made out of bricks. For R Meir, it's going on to R Meir, you are allowed to break open the box and take your food from there. If you have a house that's full of fruit and it's closed up, and then it got open, somehow the wall fell down, then you're allowed to take from the opening. Not only, you don't have to wait for the wall to fall down by itself, you could even go knock down the wall. Now, this Tosfos here, we're not going to get into it too much, but this Tosfos, Dibur HaMasla, the long one, yeah? So in there, when we discuss this at the end of Shabbos, this also has a lot what to do with opening up packages on Shabbos in order to get to the food, right? Here, R Meir is saying that you can knock down the bricks, right, to get to the food. So what is that any different than opening up packages for food or opening packages for whatever, for anything that you need to get inside there? Right, so based on this Gemara, there are makilim that say you can do that. Okay, so V'amar Rav Nachman bar Ad Amar Shmuel ba'avira delivni. It's talking about bricks that were, literally means avir means air, but meaning I guess air is holding it together. That would be the pshat, meaning it's not cemented. So Hanami, so we say, yeah, so yes, we're talking about where it's not cemented together. right? So that's why R Meir holds you're allowed to bust it open. Reb Zera says it was on Yom Tov and not on Shabbos, right? And this is talking about his Shabbos. So you have to know, and you're right. We're talking about Yom Tov here. We're talking about Yom Tov. We're not talking about Shabbos, right? If he lost it in a city, Eruv, his Eruv is a good Eruv. The imbesade avad, and if he lost it in the field, ein Eruv, his Eruv is not Eruv, right? Because the Shiloh is carrying it, right? So if it's a city, his Eruv is an Eruv because you can go carry it. But if it's in a field and you can't carry it. Bibi Yom Tov, Mali Yir, Mali Sodim. If it's Yom Tov, who cares, city or field, right? Not city, field. City, that wasn't what I was referring to. It's not a city or field, right? It's you're allowed to carry. So how could it be talking about Yom Tov? So this is what it's saying. Nasnu b'migdal. Okay, this is the way you have to learn the Mishnah. Nasnu b'migdal. If it was put into a box, v'nal b'fanav, and you locked it, and you lost the key. Hareza Eruv, it's still an Eruv. That's all on Yom Tov, right? Why? Because you're allowed to break open on Yom Tov in order to get to the food, right? Because Yom Tov, you're allowed to do food prep. You're allowed to do malacha in order to prepare your food on Yom Tov. B'Shabbos, ain't Eruv, but on Shabbos, the Eruv is not an Eruv. Nimtza hamaftech, and then let's say you do find the key, bein be'ir, bein b'sada, whether it's in a city or whether it's a field, ein Eruv, then the Eruv is not an Eruv, right? Which we're going to see in a minute why that is, why the Tanakama is saying no Eruv. R Meir, be'ir, Eruv, in a city, his Eruv is an Eruv, right? Because there's a Eruv there. B'sada ain't Eruv, but if it's in a field, his Eruv is not an Eruv, right? What's the problem?
We're talking about Eruv Tchumim, right? To get to the Eruv.
No.
He needs a key.
He needs a key, correct.
How does he carry that key?
Huh?
How does he carry that key on Shabbos?
No, the key could be hiding right under the box or something.
So how do you find it if he couldn't get there?
He can only go further. Right. He can't
There is coming.
Right.
I know it's Eruv Tchumim.
You're saying, how does he get the key? Where does he get the key? So we said it last night, right? He has the key, hides the key there. And then he comes in, the key's lost. Right?
It can't be that there's an Eruv that he can carry, because then he doesn't need Eruv Tchumim, right? Because it's in your boundaries there.
Mm-hmm.
There's no 2,000 amos within an Eruv.
I thought this is a Machlokes with Rabbi Lezer and the Tanakamas, a Machlokes of whether you can use karfifas. No, it's a shadow.
Right.
That's isn't that what they're asking? They're asking what's pshat in Rabbi Lezer. It's not. And Hanami, you would have to hold like Rav Shimon in order to be able to
correct. Right. So
the
that's
key.
mamash right.
Very
good. Right.
I'm saying
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's what they were asking, but anyways, it's the next. Let's see the next Gemara. The Gemara answer right. The next line's in the Gemara. Very good. Thank you. Be'ir Eruv. Why in the city is it an Eruv? Reb Shimon, right? We had this Reb Shimon a couple of times before. The Amar Echad Gagos, Echad Chatzeres, Echad Kafefius, Rishus Achasin, Lekelim Sheshav Sebasaychen. Right? Meaning Reb Shimon had a din that if you forget to make an Eruv, meaning a Riva Chatzeros, right? Everybody forgot to give in their bread. So whatever kalim are in the yard can be carried to the roofs, to the yards, and to the kafefas. It's one big rishus, and they could all be carried there. So he's saying that the reason why the Eruv is an Eruv in the city, because you have like Reb Shimon, because you can carry it from roof to roof, or to yard, back and forth, whatever it is. Right? The Sada ain't Eruv, but the field, the Eruv is not an Eruv, then he holds like the Rabbanan. Right? But this has nothing, this is a different case. This has to do with the Rabbanan who, and we're going to see this much later on, that are, if you find something in the street, or tefillin, right? Tefillin, we had it before, right? But we referenced it before. You find tefillin in the street, no Eruv. How do you get it? What do you do with the Eruv? What do you do with the tefillin? Right? So Reb Shimon says what you do is you do pachas with dalar amas, right? Or it doesn't really say, you take it less than dalar amas, then you give it to your friend who walks less than dalar amas, then you give it to your friend who walks less than dalar amas, and so on and so forth, right? And that's how you get the tefillin home.
It's not muktza?
Not for this. Really, tefillin it's a klisha malach. It depends which type of muktza, but if it would be tzara kupa, tzara makoyim, then it would be okay. So you would need it to save the tefillin.
One second, why doesn't that count? We learned, I think, weren't we learning this in the morning about saving a sefer Torah, Hashem's name and Shemus,
right?
So tefillin has parsha, it has shema, it has whatever
No,
inside.
but there you couldn't carry it outside of an Eruv. There was just saving it from your house into an
But
Eruv.
taking it from your house to the outside, I
Yeah.
always thought that meant that you could, you're outside your house or you're talking only in your chutzner.
Into your chutzner, yeah. That's talking about to your chutzner.
So
Yeah.
if you didn't have a yard to take it out, all those cases we talked about in the morning, you couldn't do it if you had to go into Rosh Hashanah.
No, I imagine, you're right. I imagine when you're trying to save the Torah from your house, you could probably do it pachas midalad. You just might get stuck in a fire, that's all.
No, so I'm saying, so why are the tefillin? So you can't make a
had-
diak for that to tefillin and carry them.
You're
regular?
right.
No, we had this in Shabbos. We had this in Shabbos with the multiple pairs of tefillin that were sitting there, and the woman that was able to put it up.
Right. Very good. Right. So that's no. But I was asking. So save you Sefer Torah from the house too. That way you don't have an Eruv. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and Hanami. I don't know. That's good. We gotta in the sugi. We'll have to double check and see why if that would be an eitzel. That would be right. But whatever. So here he's saying like the Rabbanon that you can't do that, right? So that's why he's saying in the Sada you can't do it. Rabbi Rav Yosef Damar Tavayu. Now here's a different teretz. Now we're on to a different teretz. Rabbi Rav Yosef Damar Tavayu. Hachab Bigdal Shal Eitz Askinan. We're talking about not one made out of bricks. We're talking about a box made out of wood. The Marsav or Klihu. One holds it's a Kli. Right. The Tanakh holds a Kli. Ve'ein binyim b'kelim. Ve'ein stiru b'kelim. There's nothing wrong with building up utensils, and there's nothing wrong with knocking down utensils. You can't do it to a building, to a house, but you can do it to a utensil. Marsav or oilhu. And the other, so that's why they hold you allowed to do it, because you're allowed to bust it up. But Marsav, Rebbe Eliezer holds it's an oil, it's a tent. Yeah, and you're not allowed to knock down a tent. That's Seiser, that's not Kalim. So since it has a din of a tent, so therefore it's you're not allowed to take it apart. We've looked at the Hani Tanoim, they're going in a Machlokes of these Tanoim, which has to do with Tumah and Tara. So now there's something called tumas heset, which is that if somebody's Tamei Azov, right? Zav, if they move something, that thing will become tummy, even if they don't directly touch it. All right, so meaning if they start pushing a car, let's say, so then even though theoretically that it shouldn't become tummy, but it's going to become tummy because you're moving it. What are you saying?
Randall, who was blowing on the ball on the bunt, but
very good. That's
yeah.
bottom of yes, that was. I don't know. Yeah, we'll get to it in the bottom. Yeah. Now, you mama's jumped the gun. I can't believe you chopped it. Okay.
Isn't Seiser
I didn't remember who did it though.
Yeah, Randall.
Yeah, what are you saying?
Isn't Seiser only Aser Almanas Livnos?
That's derabanan, yeah. Derabanan, yeah. Look, that's what I think Gershon asked that yesterday. No.
I'm sorry, anyway, I wasn't on yesterday. I missed it.
No, that's fine. No tightness. It wasn't.
I apologize, I missed the Shaila.
Still Shabbos for you, no? Yesterday.
Close.
We're giving you the excuse.
I was sleeping, but yes, yeah.
Okay. All right, it's all good. Well, we plug the Tani Tanoi, right? They're going in the Machlokes this Tanoi. The Tanan Hikish Al
Yaakov, you don't have to know sports. The other guy should have said it was Yuri Geller. No, so he moved it.
I don't know. No,
he moved the spoon.
That's the Israeli who can move stuff by thinking about it, looking, whatever.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that part. Okay, so let's see. The Tanan Hikish Al Gabi Shida Tevu Migdal. If you hit it on top of a box or different types of boxes, Tamein. So then those things are going to become Tomei because he moved it. Reb Nechemi, Reb Shimon Mitar, but Reb Nechemi and Shimon say it's tar. Now, what's up, Shan in this Machlokes? My lab Mivliki. This is what they're arguing about. Marsav or Klihu. One holds it's a Kli. Right? So since it's a Kli can become Tomei. Umar Savar oilhu, and the other one holds it's an oil. And something that's an oil, it itself cannot become tummy, right? Meaning any type of building is not tummy. Here they're going with, according to remember we had this a few times, that anything that's larger than 40 sa has a din of a building and it can't become tummy, right? Like a refrigerator or an airplane or that type of thing, it itself does not become tummy, right? So here we're not going with that shita. Well, at least the Tanakama is not. Marsav oil, it is an oil, and therefore, and it cannot become tummy. That's what the thing the Machlokes is. So too, the same thing here by this box. Is it an oil, or is it not an oil? Yes. Amar Abai v'tizbara. This is this sova tanya oil. If you have an oil, v'nisit. If you have an oil and you move it, then it becomes tummy. Right? Meaning even without touching it, as long as you took a stick and hit it, right? which was the case before, then it moves, then it's tamei. Kli ve'eininis, it's tar. But if you hit a kli and it doesn't move, then that kli is tar. The katani safe, and we learned in the safe over there. Vim hayu nisutin tamein. But if you move them, then everybody holds are going to be tamei. Zaklal, and what's the rule? Nisat machmas koichai tamei. If it gets moved because of his koyach, so it's tamei. Machmas ra'ada. But if it's just ra'ada is moving, like because it's scared, it means it's shaking, then it's tar. That's actually a chilu ra'ada, right? Coming up in Bez Hashem in the Rosh Hashanah davening in Unasana Toikif, right? Chilu ra'ada. Right? Ra'ada means it's shaking. So it's tar. So what do you see? What do you see from this? That it doesn't make a difference which type of, whether it's a utensil or an oil. If it moves, it's a problem. If it doesn't move, it's not a problem. So the kuli alma heset machmas koifei tamei. Everybody holds yes. If you move, if a zav or a zava moves this thing from its, and because it's coming from the strength of the person that's tamei, then it's going to be tamei machmas tamei. It's going to be tamei machmas ra'ada. But if it's only because of shaking, meaning the guy, a zav, jumps up and down on the ground, and therefore this utensil starts moving. So that's not because he touched it and Memela moved it. It's just because it's shaking based on what the zav did, but that's much more removed. And here we're talking about where it's shook, but because of his koyach, right? But straight because of his koyach. And this is what the argument is. The marsavar havi heset, the marsavar lo havi heset. One holds that it is considered heset, tumas heset, and one holds it's not heset. Okay, so what does that have to do with our Mishnah? The bottom line is, what are we going to be talking about with our Mishnah? So, meaning, what's the case in the Mishnah? We're talking about it was locked. We're talking about where it was locked, and then it was tied up with a rope. Right? And you need a knife to cut the rope in order to get in. Meaning it was locked, right? But the lock was tied with a rope. And how are you going to get this thing open? By cutting it open with a knife. Right? He needs a knife to cut it. Tanakama the Tanakama holds like Rabbi Yosi Damar, Kala Kalim Nitna B'Shabbos, puts me Masara Gadol. So Tanakama says like Rabbi Yosi that there's nothing muktza. The only things that are muktza are large knives like a saw and a plow, a nail that goes into a plow. Everything else is not muktza. So you can go get yourself a knife, cut it open, then you have access to the Eruv. Rabbi Eliezer Savar like Rabbi Nechemia. And Rabbi Eliezer holds like Rabbi Nechemi, Damar afilu talis afilu tarvid ein nitlan ela tzaref tashmishon. He holds like Rabbi Nechemi, which we had, which is a very, very minority shita, who says that everything is muktza on Shabbos. Even a talis is muktza on Shabbos. Afilu tarvid, even a spoon. Ein nitlan ela tzaref tashmishon. You can only take it for the exact necessity. Meaning your talis, you could take it to wear it. Let's say you need the talis, I don't know what you need the talis as a tablecloth, let's say, or to put down under a Sefer Torah. So you could read the Sefer Torah. Rabbi Nechemia holds you're not allowed to use it. All right, so that's who Rabbi Eliezer is going with in the Mishnah. So therefore, he holds that there's no way for you to access the rope. How are you getting the Eruv? How are you getting through the rope? You can't take a knife because the knife is not meant to cut the rope. The knife is meant to cut food. Right, or whatever it's meant to cut, but it's not meant to cut that rope. Okay.
Why do they even bring his opinion then? If we're talking about actually being able to use these things, and we're talking about an actual situation where you need even a spoon, a Sefer Torah, why do we even bring up the opinion that everything's muktza? And how is that like a normal opinion in this anyway?
No, it is an opinion. I thought you were going to ask something else, Simon. What we're saying that's who Rabbi Eliezer holds like in the Mishnah, right?
Yeah.
That's who he holds like in the Mishnah, that Rabbi Nechemia, that sounds like a far-fetched thing to say, that Rabbi Eliezer, in order to explain Rabbi Eliezer's case in the Mishnah, he has to hold like this minority opinion of Rabbi Nechemia. I don't know if that's what you're asking, but
it's not even, yeah, that's partially what I'm asking. I mean, Bekitzer, it sounds like a Chalila. I would never actually equate it, but it sounds like a kere, right? Like you can't use fire, so you sit in the dark. You can't eat anything. So
excuse me, hello. What does Beis Shammai say about Shvisas Kalim? Okay.
I don't, what does that mean? What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, but meaning he's saying, no, what you're saying, Simon, is that you're going with such an opinion like that we don't hold of. Is that what you're saying? You're saying Beis Shammai or the Bar, you're also saying we don't hold the Beis Shammai like that. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, so.
Yeah. But I'm saying in the context of this discussion, to have such an opinion that you can't use anything anyway, what's the point? What's the point of even discussing it?
No, because he does hold you can use it, but only for the exact need that it's meant for. Right? Like your shoes, you have to use to wear on your feet. You can't use your shoes to hold open the door. Right? Which severely limits the case. But that's what he holds. I mean, listen, Reb Nechemia holds that. We don't paskin like that, but I thought you were saying that Rebbe Eliezer, to say Rebbe Eliezer holds like him sounds like a little bit. I'm saying it's.
No, I'm not that deep.
Not saying that way. You're just stop asking on his opinion.
I'm not that deep.
No, I believe you are. But you stop asking Rebbe Nechemia's opinion.
I appreciate that.
No, it's a good question. You're asking Stam on Rebbe Nechemia's opinion. That's what you're asking. You there, Simon?
Yeah.
That's what you asked. I hear. Anachanami. You're right. We discussed it by Shabbos, I think, then what's Pshat in his opinion. Okay, very good. So Zok the Mishna weiter, yeah? Neskalgel chutz l'tchum, right? If it rolled out of the tchum, so you want to get the most out of your Eruv tchum. So you mamish put it, again, you're going to get 2,000 amas from where you put it, 2,004 amas, based on this Gemara, on this Mishna, right? So you put it mamish at the edge, fine. And then a wind comes. This Rabban is what we're going to. We're headed with that, right? And a wind comes and blows it out. So now your Eruv is outside of your tchum. It's not accessible because it's mamish right past your reach. Right? So nizgal chutz l'tchum. Nafal, that's one case. Nafal of gal, or your luck, you put it by a cement wall, and that cement wall fell down. Right? That's the guy. The Chassidish guys obviously have a lot of faith in our bungalow colony. I don't know why, because if you look at it, you would expect that something's going to fall down on top of their Eruv Tchum. But Baruch Hashem, and so far so good, it hasn't fallen down. But Nafal Olav Gal, right? If a pile of bricks falls on it, or Nisraf, or it got burned, Truma v'nitmes. But let's say you made it out of Truma, and then it became Tameh, so then nobody could have it. Yisrael can't have it because it's Truma. And a guy can't have it because it's tummy. Right? If all this happened when it was still Friday, obviously it's not an Eruv because you can't get to it. It's not edible. It's not reachable. It's not edible.
1 second. If it's neskagel chutz b'tchum, I guess you're not there to put it back. That's what it means.
Correct. Yeah. Mishachashecha hareza Eruv. What happens? When it got dark, then it is an Eruv. Now, what's the common example? Unless you're just standing there and watching this thing, you go out there Friday afternoon, you put it there. You come back there Shabbos morning when you're walking, you think you're going to be able to walk past the tchum. You look and you see, there's a wall fell down on it. You have no idea. Did that wall fall down on Friday? Did the wall fall down Friday night? If it fell down on Friday afternoon, then your Eruv is no good. If it fell on it Friday night, your Eruv is good, right? So, im safek, right? Now, the Gemara is going to talk about this a lot, so we have to remember these shittas. Im safek, R Meir Reb Yehuda Aimer Hareza Chamar Gamel. Then, if it's a safek, then it's a Chamar Gamel. It means a Chamar and a Gamel. What's a pshat in this? A donkey. This, I think, Yuri posted the picture here. First, I was looking at those pictures, like, what is he posting? I couldn't figure out what does this have to do with today's daf. Then I chopped. Okay, anyways, just showing a picture of a chamor and a chamor and a gamel. Okay. Anyway, so a donkey you push from behind, and a camel is in the front. So now, basically, if you want to lead a camel and a donkey, you're stuck in between. I guess it's proverbial. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I mean, you can't. Which way you going? So basically, what they're paskening is that you're stuck keeping the chumras of both, meaning you can only keep the Eruv towards the direction that you're going. You can't go in the other direction. Meaning, normally, if I make an Eruv tchum, let's start with the other way. If I don't make an Eruv tchum, so I'm allowed 2,000 amas in any direction I want from the city, right? If I make an Eruv in one direction, so granted, I'll get a bonus 2,000 amas in that direction. Let's say to the north. I make my Eruv to the north, right? So granted, I'll be able to walk an extra 2,000 amas to the north, but south, I can't go anywhere, right? I'm eliminating myself from being able to walk south at all. So now the problem with this Eruv is now this guy brought this Eruv north, and now he's not sure when the brick wall fell on it, and he's not sure when the fire burned it. So now what we're saying is that he's stuck. He could only go those 2,000 amas, his original 2,000 amas, to the north. He can't go south because maybe the Eruv is good, and he can't go to his bonus 2,000 amas because maybe the Eruv Tchum was no good, right? So he's stuck just in the middle. That's what it means, Chamar Gomel, that the driver is stuck in between the camel and the donkey. That's the first sheet. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, safek Eruv kosher. No, they hold a safek is kosher. Safek derabanan. It's kosher. Well, the Gemara is going to discuss it, but yeah, that's the pashas. We have safek of derabanan. We're going to see whether Eruv Tchum is derabanan or derabanan. Rabbi Yossi, af tumas hayed mishum chamisha zakenim al safek Eruv shekosher. So Rabbi Yossi said that he said Eidos that there's 5 zakenim that said the safek Eruv is kosher. Fine. So Zog the Gemara, this galgal chutz l'tchum. If it rolled out of the tchum, it had to have rolled more than 4 amas. But if it's still within 4 amas of end of the tchum, we know that a person who puts the Eruv always gets a 4 amas buffer, I guess would be the way to say it. So since you get a 4 amas buffer, if this food is still within 4 amas, it is accessible, and therefore his Eruv is going to be a good Eruv. Fine. Then the next case was if bricks fell on it, or if it got burned. Right? We're thinking that because if he wants, he could take it by what? By taking all the bricks off from on top of his food. Right? What's with muktza? So we're saying, because you're able to do a shvus, it's a derabanan, you'd be able to do a shvus ben hashmashas to access the Eruv. Right? So then the Gemara says, "Leim masnisin de loy Rebbe." Let's say a Mishna is not like Rebbe. Di Rebbe, Hamar called over shum shum shvus loy gadol lavin hashmashas. Right? We discussed this yesterday and the day before also. So let's say it's not like Rebbe, who holds. Rebbe holds that anything that's mishum shvus, they didn't make exer ben hashmashas. So, and we're saying in our Mishnah that even though the guy theoretically could uncover the rocks, must be he's not allowed to. And that's the chiddush of the Mishnah, telling us even though you think he could uncover the rocks, but we don't pass him like Rebbe, and therefore you're not allowed to do an Issa derabanan ben hashmashas. So the Gemara says, no, afilu temek Rebbe, you could even be like Rebbe, like tzricha debayim mara b'chatzina. Here he needs, it's talking about where he can't do it with his hands. He needs a hoe and a chatzina, a pick, a hoe, whatever, that things that need to, that he needs to dig it out, which is going to make it into the derabanan, right? Because it's either going to be baina or it's going to be plowing, right? But tzricha, and then you need these cases. Ditan in this galgal, if you would have just said the case of it rolling out, shum de lesa gabe, he's not next to his Eruv. Aval nafal alav gal, but if the pile of stones fell on top of the ise gabe, that he's next to it, then maybe the Eruv would be good. So the Mishnah is telling you that it's not good. I would think it's an Eruv. But it's not an Eruv. Enough of gal. And if you say that a pile of bricks fell on top of it, it's covering over the Eruv, right? So how are you going to get to it? I wouldn't galgal. But if it rolled out, zimnin to asi zika. Sometimes the wind will come, and it's going to bring it back. It'll bring it back in. So therefore, I would think it's Eruv. So tzricha, you need it. Rabaran, that's what I was referring to, right? There was a bunt. If anybody's a baseball fan, I forget the players, whoever. There was a bunt. What was the name? It was You're muted. You're muted.
The one I said to Lenny Randall. That's what you're saying?
Yeah. Right? Yeah. So basically the ball went foul. Foul or fair? It stayed fair.
It stayed fair. He tried to blow it foul.
Right. So the baseball player tried to get on his hands and knees and blow the ball foul, so it would go foul. Right? That's what I was thinking about with this Gemara, right? Maybe you get on your hands and knees, even though the Eruv, the food went out of the Eruv, right? You get on your hands and knees. Well, the Gemara is saying the wind might come and blow the food back in. But I'm thinking maybe you go on your hands and knees and try and blow it back in to Whether that's mutter or not, I don't know. Okay, whatever. My kruma brain was just thinking that would be a case.
This is out of our control, right? If the wind comes, blows it out, the wall comes and it falls down, right? So all things out of our control, right?
Yes.
So before we had the Gemara with the two base saw and two people, three people, somebody dies, right?
Yeah.
Right. Also out of your control, right? And how we poskin on that, and why is this different?
Again, you're trying to say which case?
The case with the two base saw, that you were allowed with three people in it, right? But if one of them dies, right, what happens to the two people, right? So how is that different in this case in terms of how we set it up?
I hear, but here the problem is that we don't know when this took place. We just don't know when it took place.
But who cares? It took place. Meaning the guy died. What's the difference? You can't revive him.
No, but here, if the wind blew it out after Shabbos started, then your Eruv is still a good Eruv. Right? We just don't know. Did the wind take it out after Shabbos, or maybe the wind took it out before Shabbos?
How do you view the fact that where it went, if you don't know?
Correct. That's
which
exactly
side do you error on? Okay.
Right, exactly. So what we're saying that Lamaisa, if you know for sure it was out, then it's out. Then your Eruv is no
I don't understand. What's the Gemara's Havamina here? The Gemara is saying, even if we know for sure that it left the Eruv before Shabbos, there's a Havamina that even after, let's say after it says it comes back in, there's a Havamina that you might say that it becomes an Eruv. How?
No,
that's the Gemara's Havamina. Aimel they have an Eruv. The Gemara is saying even if we know Vadai that when it was out, there's a Havamina of the Gemara saying what shaykhis.
You're right.
First of all, by the case he just brought up, that case is a Metzius. Either you have Eruv Chatzeres is a Metzius whether you have it or not. Eruv Tchum, you rely on the fact that Ben Hashmashas was there. That's a lumdus. It's not a Metzius. They're completely different cases.
You're right.
And I don't understand the Gemara's Havamina over here. What's the Gemara's Havamina they have an Eruv?
So again,
it didn't happen. There's no lumdus here. If it's not there, Bishas says, I'm sorry, Bishas. It's not an Eruv Tchum. You need it by Shkia, right? Ben Hashmashas.
So you
it
put
has nothing
it.
to do with Metzius.
You put it down, and it was an Eruv, and then this hurricane came, like we had 2 weeks ago, and it blew it. You don't know if it blew it before or after. Or
that's not the Gemara. The Gemara's not talking about we don't know it. The Gemara is saying there's a Havamina, even if we know Vadai was outside, Bishas Ben Hashmashas, there's a Havamina to have an Eruv because it could be blown back in. Which I was. Ben Hashmashas is not there. It's not there, period. You can't rely on Metzius. The idea of Eruv Tchum has nothing to do with Metzius. It's lumdus. It has to be there, Bishas Ben Hashmashas. If it's not there, it's not there. Why would you have Havamina
so the Gemara's
Eruv?
Right, so the Gemara's Havamina, the way I understand it, is just like this whole Eruvin thing. Virtual seems to be a thing here. I don't know. I hope I don't sound like an apicardus, but it seems like by Eruvin, virtual things seem to work, right? At least we had Havaminas that it works. Like you could theoretically, getting back to Friday, Akiva, what we were talking about, right? You could theoretically tilt the basket, and we're going to say that it works anyways, even though the basket right now is not tilted. So we're saying, well, don't give up on this Eruv, because maybe this Eruv could blow back in. Don't give up.
When? I don't understand that. That's Balabadis. I don't understand it.
Yes, it is Balabadis.
If the Eruv is not, no, my point is if the Eruv is not, the Gemara there's very clear rules. The Gemara
most of us are Balabatim in this year.
Okay. The Gemara requires that you have to have a Shvisa B'Shas Ben Hashmashas. What is the Gemara's Havamina? That Metzius will change that? No,
but theoretically,
Metzius is nothing to do with Metzius.
Right, you're right. That's right. It's all theory. So since theoretically this thing could have come back in, then Memela it's still a good Eruv. You're right.
So why can't So why
come back in?
I don't understand why. If according to that Havamina, why can't I bring an Eruv? Why can't I bring an Eruv on Shabbos? It's the exact same Havamina. So I'll bring an Eruv to him on Shabbos. Why is it any different? It wasn't. There's no Shvisa there.
The truth is, Akiva, wasn't that the Gemara's Kashan on Amud Aleph before? We said, why can't, with the walking with the Eruv on the end of Friday, right? The end of Friday, right? With Rav Yirmiyah. The Gemara said, 1 second. If you're saying that theoretically the thing we could have tilted over the basket, so why can't I just say, yeah, theoretically I could have walked there. So why do I have to actually walk there?
Because that theoretical, it was. I hear you're saying because Bishas Ben Hashmashas, you're saying there's the potential for it to be blown back in.
Yeah, no. Listen, I'm not saying I understand this. I don't understand it, but I think it seems to be that as long as this epis something could have theoretically happened, we take it and run with it. But you're right, the Maskanas at Dvarim, you're right? But in the Havamina, that's the Havamina. That's what it is. I think I don't have any other way to explain it. Yeah, but anyways, your kasha is your kasha, good kasha. Okay. Anyways, weiter. Ein nisraf truma v'nitmes. Ein nisraf, that's one thing. It either became burned or truma, and then it became tummy. So lamali, what do I need this for? Right? Why do I need two cases? Tana nisraf. So why is it saying nisraf? Now we're on tummy beis. Lamad beis. It's going to teach us the koyach of Rabbi Yosi that even though it was burned, right? When it's a safek, it's still going to be okay. Yeah, you can already see where this is headed to with safekas here. Again, we're saying the chiddush to Rabbi Yosi is that, meaning if the Eruv was here in the world, so then okay, I can say it's here. Why should I think it was no good? But now the Eruv doesn't even exist. It got burnt. And we're still saying the koyach of Rabbi Yosi is that even though there is no Eruv here, what to work with, still we say the safek Eruv is okay. Right? So Tana Truma v'nitmes, and the reason why it says the case of Truma v'nitmes, R Meir, to tell you the koyach of R Meir that even though the Eruv is here right now, still we're going to say it's no good because we're mesupik. Okay, so now the Gemara is going to spend the next at least plot or in change on discussing what's safek or not. So we have this long.
What's Takab shot? We don't go basur chazaka.
Oh, so
why doesn't R Meir go basur chazaka?
So we're going to see. We have to see over the next blot or so how this goes. The sub really more tomorrow's stuff. Yeah, today I don't think we're going to hit it. The sub R Meir sfeika l'chumra. Does R Meir hold that anytime you have a safek, you go l'chumra? Right? For Tanan, we have a Mishna. There's a lot of cases in the Shmit. They're not difficult, but a lot of cases. For Tanan, Tomei sheyared litval. If it Tomei went down to be toivel, safek toval, safek loivel. We're mesupik whether he was toivel or not. Right? It's a shaila exactly what this case is. Is this case that he mesupik whether he went into a kosher mikveh or whether he went down into the mikveh at all, right? So what would be the case? Why can't you just ask him, right? So in the case where we don't know if this mikveh was tahar or not, it was a kosher one, yeah. But the other one is, I guess he then went into a coma. Let's say, I don't know. There's no way to be mavar. Obviously, we're talking about all cases here where we cannot clarify the situation. So anyway, so Tomei Shior Litval, he went down to be Toivel. Safek Toval, Safek Loy Toval. It's a Safek whether he was Toivel or not. Afilu Toval, even if he was Toivel, Safek Toval Bar Boim Sa, Safek Loy Toval Bar Boim Sa. It's a Safek whether he was Toivel in 40 Sa or not. V'chein Shnei Mikvais, there were two Mikvais. Yeah, Ba'achas Yesh Bar Boim Sa. One Mikvah had the proper measurement of 40 Sa. Uba'achas Ein Bar Boim Sa. One did not have 40 Sa. The Toval Ba'achas Mehan, and he Toivel, and one of the many, we don't know which one he Toivel did. Sveikoi Tomei. Then in that case, the safek is Tomei. But that's all talking about Batuma Chamura. That's all about strict Tuma, which means derabanan. Avo, Batuma Kala, but light Tuma, Kagoin Sha'achal Oichlin Tomei, and these are all from the Yudches Dvarim way back in the beginning of Shabbos. He ate things that are Tomei, which normally should not make you Tomei, but for Truma it will. B'shasa mashkin tamei, and he ate tamei food, which will also make him tamei for truma, but it's not a real truma. And somebody who had most of his body went in water that was not natural or that was not the drawn water. Or if it fell on his head or most of his body, 3 lug of water that was drawn. And then he went down. After all these things, he went to the mikveh to be toivel from this not such strict tumah. Safek taval, safek loy taval. It's a safek whether he toivel himself or if he didn't toivel himself. But filu taval, and even if he was toivel, safek taval bar himself, safek loy taval bar himself. It's a safek whether he was in 40 sa or not. V'chein shnei mikvahs, and same thing if he had 2 mikvahs. V'achas yesh bar himself. One had 40 sa, v'achas ein bar himself. One did not have bar himself. V'taval v'achas man. His suffix is tar, right? Now the pashtus is that Stam Mishna is R Meir, right? So the assumption is that this is R Meir who's saying that the suffix is gonna be tar. Rabbi Yosi Matama, but Rabbi Yosi says Tami, which we're gonna get to the stira and Rabbi Yosi. So basically, there's stira now in R Meir and Rabbi Yosi, right? So you see here that by a derabanan case, R Meir said all the tefillas are good, right? So we answer because R Meir tchum and derabanan ninhu. He said, tchum is an derabanan, which we know that we don't paskin like that, but that's Shita's Rebbe Kiva, who holds that tchum is an derabanan. So since tchum is an derabanan, so therefore safek is going to be osir. It's a safek derabanan. We're going to have to be machmer, right? But these tumas, these light tumas, are safek derabanan, therefore we can be mekel. The Savar R Meir tchum and derabanan. Does R Meir really hold tchum as derabanan? Vatnan. We learned in a Mishna ein yochel havlioi zu. I'm sorry. If you're not able to, literally havliya means to swallow it. Yeah, meaning what do you do when you're trying to measure a tchum and you come to a steep hill, which is by us in the country, right? You have a very steep hill. So now you're going to be losing out a lot of your 2,000 amas. If the hill goes down and then goes up, you're going to be losing it, a lot of it in just climbing in altitude, which is not really 2,000 amas, right? So how do you go about measuring it? Yeah. So the best, what you do is, if the mountain is far enough within 50 amas, so what you do before Yom Tov, before Shabbos, or Yom Tov, is you pull a string across. Let's say you have two mountains, right? So what you do is you pull a string across from one top of one to the top of the other, and then you know and you only calculate that. You don't calculate the going up and the down, so you don't lose out. But what happens if they're way further than 50 amas away from each other? So how do you do that? So Bazu, Amarav Dustoi, Baryanai, Mishum Rameir, Shemati, Shemakadran Baharim. He heard that Makadran Baharim means you drill through the mountains. Yeah, so basically you look at it as if the Eruv goes right through the mountains. Yeah, how you do that, we'll get to at a different time exactly how you go about measuring that. But basically you look at it like it goes through the mountains. I don't think there's anything so steep in Muncie. And if you say tchum is a deoyraysa, not a derabanan, do we say that you look at the string as if it goes right through the mountain? We don't do, right? There's a couple other places that you have to do measurements. In Orei Miklot, they also get a tchum around the Orei Miklot, right? With the Orei Miklot is if somebody kills the b'shoigig, right, by mistake, he gets to run to one of the 6 Orei Miklot. Yeah? So to save, and then the relatives can't touch him there. He also gets 2,000 amas. How do you calculate those 2,000 amas, right? So if you have mountains, so are you allowed to do this shtick? So we're saying you're not allowed to because it's derabanan. An egla rufa is basically if you find a dead body in between two cities and you have no idea who killed it and what's going on. So you measure which city it was closest to, and that's where it goes. Because those are shel Torah. So you see, you don't do this shtick unless it's for things that are Torah. And he said, right, that you would do it. R Meir, he said b'shem R Meir, that you are allowed to do this for tchum. So must be, he holds a tchum is a derabanan. So like Kasha, hadidei hadarabei. No, that one was his opinion, one was his Rebbe's opinion. So his Rebbe held, Rebbe Kiva held that it's derabanan, but R Meir himself held it's not derabanan. Dekanami. We have a dig in this, the Katani, Bazu, Amarav Distoi Baryana, B'Shum R Meir, Shamati, Shemakanim Baharim, where I heard that you're allowed to go through the mountain, Shmamina, then you're allowed to. So then the Gemara says, V'Ramei derabanan, derabanan, the R Meir. Why can't we still ask from a derabanan to a derabanan? Safek derabanan to safek derabanan. It's not noga be'echad b'layla, right? So let's say a guy touched somebody during the night. He had no idea if this person was alive or if this person was dead. And the next day he got up. And he found the guy that he was dead. Right again. He touched the guy in the middle of the night and he had no idea if he was alive or he was dead. Comes the morning and he finds that he's dead. Is this person who touched him tamei now or not? Meaning it could be that the guy was alive when he touched him in the middle of the night. Right? Again, the case is you touched a body in the middle of the night. Then the body ends up being dead in the morning. Is the person tamei or not? What's the shaila? Maybe the guy was alive when he was touched. So R Meir matar. R Meir says he's tahor, right? So now Akiva, this is where we get to this. This is why is he tahor? Because he has a chazaka. He has a chazaka that he was alive before the night, right? So since he has a chazaka that he was alive before the night, so therefore we go with the chazaka, right? That's what Rashi says. Even though it's a safek, but the Lamai said it'll be ukme al-chazaka. You established the chazaka, which was that he was alive before. And the Chachamim say tamei shekala tmeias kashas mitziyasim. Anything but tuma goes with the way it's found, and when it was found, it was dead. So therefore, we can assume that it was dead before too. Whatever it is, you see that R Meir is mekel, right? So Amar Rav Yirmiyah Mishna Seinu shehaya aleh sheretz kol bein hashmoshes. So now we have a whole different shot. Now we're saying that our Mishnah here, right, when we're saying that the truma was tamei, is talking about when you know that there was a sheretz on top of your food, the whole bein hashmoshes, right? So therefore, we don't know. Not that we don't know. So since meaning that we know that the food was for sure tummy, right? So since the food was for sure tummy, so then we're going to have to be machmer. That's what he said. We know for sure the food is tummy, so therefore you have to be machmer. If that's the case, Bahar Lema Rabbi Yossi safek Eruv kosher, is Rabbi Yossi going to say that a safek Eruv is kosher? That's not a safek. And again, we were talking about safek, whether it was safek, whether it was tummy or not. What do you mean safek? You just said that it had a dead sheretz sitting on top of it, the whole bein hashmoshes, right? That's the case of truma tamei in the Mishnah. How could that be that's not a safek? How could you be makel on that? Of course it was tummy by bein hashmoshes. So Rabbi Yosef, now we take it another step further. We have two sets of edim. One set of edim says, I'm telling you, we saw your food become tamei before on Friday afternoon. And the other one says it was when it got dark. Rava Amar. So Rava says, Hasam trei chazaki lekula v'hacha chada chazaka lekula. Rava says, right, there was two chazakas, and you go to the kula. Meaning there were two chazakas, which tell you can go towards kula. So therefore, we're not gonna care that there's edim, right? What are the chazakas, right? Meaning the chazaka that he was dead, right? But I'm sorry, there's no chazaka. The chazaka was that he was alive. Chazaka was that he was alive before the night, right? And the other one is that how do you know that he touched him? Meaning this guy is a cheskas tara, the guy who in question touched the mace. His chazaka is that he's a cheskas tara. So we have a cheskas tara on the guy, and we have a cheskas that the guy was alive. The person that was dead was alive when this guy touched him. So then we have a chazaka. So therefore, when those two chazakas we're going to go with hacha chad chazaka lekula. Here in our Mishnah, you have one chazaka for kula, right? Because it was tar before you put the Eruv down, it was tar. Yeah, so therefore we can go and say that it is tar. Fine. So that's why R Meir will be able to say here it's tar, but and it's going to be different by the case with the guy who was dead. Okay, well I guess we'll stop here. We're going to do Rabbi Yossi. There's a steer Rabbi Yossi too, but we'll do that tomorrow. B'ezras Hashem. Okay, fine.
Rabbi Aaron.
Good night.
Rabbi Aaron, Moshe Katkis had a baby boy.
Oh, mazel tov. Wonderful.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
Does anyone want 8 or 9 of those bags of frozen meatballs that were coming with the meals? We need to make room in our freezer. Does anyone want them? Rabbi Stein? You made a face.
No, sir. I don't even have a freezer. Forget about it. I don't even have a fridge or a freezer now. It's dead again. Very moody. My fridge and freezer are very moody.
The guy called me. I ignored his phone call today.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
does anybody want it?
What do you have?
9